What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
Together, we are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do, Mr. Rose?
We give the people what they want.
Jalen Rose, the Heat and the Sixers faced off in a big game in the Eastern Conference, and guess what? It was not even close to close. The Heat didn't just win, they absolutely dominated the 76ers. Jalen, I didn't know who was going to win, but I did not think this would happen. What happened to the Sixers last night?
So I got to tell you something that we need to start doing as people who talk about sports in the microphones, and a lot of times we're wearing makeup and having big-time opinions and takes.
Okay.
Start putting some respect on Jimmy Butler's name.
Fact.
That need to start happening in today's NBA. And I'm not even talking about points, rebounds, and assists. Here's a player that has never attempted, on average, over 15 shots per game. Yet he's a perennial all-star and a lockdown defender, and he's very effective at being efficient. He struggled recently shooting a three-point shot. Going into last night, really was struggling.
Yep.
But why I want to give him his flowers while he's in the league, and for some strange reason, they don't have him starting in the All-Star game, which is crazy to me. I know that that's a voting thing, but that lets you know that the process is just flawed. Not only does he show up in the fourth quarter, but he shows up when there's adversity. And I always appreciate players like that. For example, we heard about the infamous practice that Minnesota had when he fell out with his teammates and how he was dominant, putting the smack down on them. And he played that way when he returned to Minnesota too. He doubled down on it. When he goes against Philly, think about what happened. The Sixers got two perennial all-stars in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. They have an all-star caliber player in Tobias Harris, who they gave Jimmy Butler's contract to. Mm-hmm. The Miami Heat now have a second all-star with Bam because he's arguably the most improved player in the game. And not only will he block shots at board, he get you double-figure dimes now. Adebayo's ball skills are great. So now those dudes come to Miami. And I tell you, a handful of cities are undefeated as it relates to the nightlife. I know Miami's still on tilt from the Super Bowl. I know it's some remnants still laying around. I know it is. I was just down there. Trust me. There's some archaeologists that need to go down there and get those bones from the Super Bowl. And then now your team that struggles on the road in the Sixers goes to Miami and plays against Jimmy Butler. Now, what we sleep on is Jimmy Butler flat out left the Sixers and didn't look back. And didn't go join somebody. He went to Miami to forge his own path, in theory, as an all-NBA caliber player. And he was killing them, basically almost had 40 through three quarters. The Miami Heat had the most efficient net rating offensively in the history of the NBA last night against the Sixers defense. They only had 3 turnovers the entire game. I be watching games like this closely. And look at Jimmy, equal opportunity employer. Get some of that Embiid. Get some of that Tobias. Oh, that's Ben? You come get some of that too. And that impresses me about how he approaches the game, and that's why the Miami Heat are going to continue to improve and give people problems.
Jalen, I'm so glad that you celebrated the Heat, but you know me, I like to go negative. Let's talk about the Sixers for a second. And before we talk about the Sixers, let's listen to Ben Simmons himself discuss the Sixers' performance last night after they lost their third of 3 straight.
Ben, you mentioned the physicality. I mean, you guys are a very tall, big team. Why can you pinpoint why you haven't been able to?
We were soft. We were soft. We were soft.
Wait, y'all supposed to be the big bullies on the block. Like, y'all supposed to be the big team. Y'all supposed to be the defensive team with the big guys, with this height and the size at every position. And you're soft? Jalen, what do you think about Ben Simmons saying that he and his team were soft last night?
representing Philly, they supposed to be Broad Street bullies at that. And the thing about it, I mentioned it, they struggle mightily on the road. Their road record against Christmas is amongst the worst in the entire NBA. Look at that move. That's Joel Embiid being guarded one-on-one on the post against Jimmy Butler, shooting a fall-away hook. Okay? That's what comes into play. When you only force a team to do 3 turnovers, you ain't physical at all. Swiss cheese. Duncan Robinson coming off clean looks, knocking down threes. Bam. He dribbled up from the top of the key one time, nobody around him, free throw line jumper, 2 bucket. So they're having an identity crisis with their team in Philly, and it's going to be interesting to see how it gets ironed out.
Jalen, I do have to mention this, that before the game, Ben Simmons was just lounging poolside with a young lady named Kendall Jenner, who he also went to the Super Bowl with. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with an NBA player enjoying a little off time, especially in Miami and especially with a lovely lady. But Jalen, do you think there's anything to that? Do you think that just the high profileness of this relationship could become a distraction for Ben Simmons and the Sixers?
So this is the part where I become OG, but an uncle that still can relate to the game. And so, like, when I played, there's certain things that I personally would not do on the day of a game because unlike boxing, one of my favorite sports, there were just certain things that fighters do before they're about to go into the ring that as a basketball player, I adopted a couple of those things, let's just say. And one of those on the day of a game, definitely not.
Don't get fired.
Definitely not. No type of relations. The other thing, laying out in the pool, laying by the pool getting sun because it seems like that may absorb some of your legs. It may not do that. That may not even be true. But again, I'm thinking like the old school player. Nowadays, let me tell you something. If I was in the league and I was playing for Philly, number 5, okay, not only would I have been laying out at the pool with Kylie Jenner, I would have got a haircut before I hung out with her, not before the game.
Well, it was Kendall Jenner, but we're going to move on before you get us all canceled. The Mavs playing well. No Luka, no problem. Kristaps Porzingis. KP had 38 points and 12 rebounds. That is his second consecutive 35.10 rebound game. Jalen, do you think that sort of KP being able to be the first option on offense can unlock him when Luka comes back and they play together later in the season?
Well, he's a perfect example of when you're confident that your confidence can be high when you know that you're going to be featured. And there are a lot of players in the league like that where when their role shifts depending on what they're asked to do, because there's a lot of this happening in the league where you go from being the best player on your team, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, Chris Paul when he joined James Harden, Paul George when he joined Russell Westbrook, to being the second best player. And then as you start to get a little older, like a Boogie Cousins when he gets back, or you're later in your career like a Dwight Howard when you're like the 7th or 8th player, that reinventing yourself is what gives you staying power. As a young player for Porzingis, you get a chance to team up with Luka, and all of a sudden he takes it to a level of top 10 dynamic that none of us saw coming this year. And so you coming off an injury, you was the number 1 option in New York. You go from being featured like he was last night to you got to get in where you fit in, and you should because Luka is that deal. So now all of a sudden when he's not out there, those plays that they was running for him, you getting those opportunities to your strength. You saw them run a pin down for him against Miles Turner.
Yep.
You saw the high pick and roll pop against Miles Turner. And so those are now the kind of actions that as a coaching staff, Rick Carlisle is going to say, okay, so we need to adapt to featuring Luka, but also making Kristaps feel like we're giving him a chance to eat. And that's going to be a great balance for them to juggle going forward because like Memphis, they're a terrific young dynamic duo.
Absolutely. I think this is the young dynamic duo that has the most potential to be great in the future. But we're also going to move on to the Boston Celtics. After a win last night against the Hawks, they've won 7 of 8 games. They're so close to the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Raptors are always red hot. But my question for you is this. When we hear about the Celtics, we always hear about trade rumors. They need to upgrade at the big position. Maybe Clint Capella is someone that interests them. But with this team and this momentum that they have, do they need to remix the roster to make a playoff run?
So here's what's going to happen in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Just giving you some tape to rewind.
Okay.
It's going to be all about matchups. That it's really going to be all about matchups. The only team that's distinguished themselves are the Milwaukee Bucks. They're the only one. Everybody else, it depends on who they're playing, whether they're going to advance or not.
Yep.
And we just talked about the Sixers. And on paper, they're about to have 2 All-Stars. But when I look at these standings, they 6.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a perfect example of this inconsistency for a talented team, yet the resurgence of teams that just give me effort on a nightly basis. The Celtics have talent and give me effort. They'll have 2 All-Stars, and Jalen Brown was just player of the week in the conference. And then you look at Indiana, look at Miami, look at Toronto. Like, those teams going to show up and play hard every night. Victor Oladipo is back for Indy. We just talked about Jimmy Butler. Pascal Siakam with the Raptors. So it all depends on matchups of who's going to advance to play against the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Jalen, I love the game of basketball. I love watching the games. I love talking about the games and breaking it down. But there's also something else I love. The drama that surrounds the NBA. And there is so much drama going on last night on and off social media regarding the Grizzlies. We'll get to that right after this. Coming to you live from the South Street Seaport, Pier 17 to be exact, and brought to you by Heineken. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose. The Grizzlies won last night, got themselves to 500 basketball, but they did against the Pistons. So I guess it still counts, though. No big deal. But, Jalen, there wasn't that much drama during the game as the Grizzlies ran away with it. But there was a lot of drama after the game. Now, remember, the trade deadline is looming, and Andre Iguodala is still with the Grizzlies. Here is what Dylan Brooks said about the situation.
First time I seen him was on TV talking about us. But we don't, it doesn't even matter. Andre Iguodala is a great player. I feel like he's doing the right thing for, his career. But we don't really care.
It's certainly not a distraction.
No, it's not a distraction at all. I laugh at that type of stuff. A guy that's on our team doesn't want to be on our team. I can't wait till we find a way to trade him so we can play him. And I can just show him what really Memphis is about.
Well, that last part was certainly interesting, and I do want to point out that Dylan Brooks said he's a great player and he respects him and all that, but he also said, I can't wait till we trade him so I can play him. Jalen, what do you think about Brooks' comments about Andre Iguodala and his relationship with the Grizzlies?
So the moment he was describing about seeing Andre Iguodala on TV talking about them, it was on NBA Countdown, and I was standing right next to him. And I gave reference to AI and congratulated him for getting a large check every 1st and 15th from his employer, but not having to show up at work.
$17 million.
That conversation did happen. And so in a salary cap driven sport, let me just tell you from Dylan Brooks' side, when you allocate resources like that to one player, that means that you're taking away from something that could be possibly making the team better if that player isn't performing at all. And so, in theory, you take that salary, they could be higher in the playoff rankings. They could be doing a lot better than anticipated. And so, I know that frustration. The other thing is, when you basically try to do what Iguodala is going to do, and Dylan applauded. He said at this point in his career, it's a smart thing. He did say that. He said at this point in his career, It's a smart thing. He's a great player, but it's not a distraction to me. Because what you're basically saying is, I want to go to a contender because y'all ain't good enough to win the chip. That's what you say. And that's what great players have been saying when they left one team. LeBron James, when he left Cleveland. Kevin Durant, when he left OKC. So, of course, when you return, you're going to get booed. This is Dylan Brooks, somebody in the locker room, physically booing Andre Iguodala because he's telling them that they're not good enough to be a contender this year by not showing up.
It is 2020, so it did not stop there. Of course, it all spilled over to social media where Ja Morant got a little active on Twitter. Not saying much, but saying enough. He did like a tweet that was, I can't say what it said, but it was it didn't say nice things about Andre Iguodala. And he also sent some emojis that were kind of pointed, that were retweeting what other people felt, which said enough. He was subtweeting Iguodala. And then, of course, it went and snowballed from there. So what do you think about these two young Grizzlies basically subtweeting and co-signing very, very negative things about Iguodala after the fact?
It has nothing to do with Andre Iguodala. That's my family. This has everything to do with my love for the league. I want to make sure I say this as somebody that grew up playing on a milk crate. Okay, nailed to a telephone pole, and that's why I started shooting runners and floaters, because you get splinters running into that pole or people to push you into it. I like competition within the game. This is a Western Conference foe. Iguodala may end up on the Western Conference team. Allegedly, that might be the Lakers or Clippers. I like a young group of players that are owning the fact that we're the grit and grind part 2 in theory. We got something special happening in Memphis, is what Ja Morant is telling y'all. You saw Jaren Jackson, and I've been telling you, he shoots that 3 with that right hand. But when he get around that basket, he'll bang on you with that left.
Oh, he dunked on Drummond with the left hand. I know you saw that. I know you saw him dunk on Drummond last night with the left hand.
Yeah. I mentioned it when you talk about the Mavs young duo. Put some respect on Memphis young duo. I've been saying it all year. And you know how protective I am with Ja Morant.
I know you love Ja Morant so much.
I am him.
You love Ja Morant so much.
I ain't even wanted to be in the dunk contest because I don't want him trying to jump over Taco Fall and get 50s because he'll try it, okay? I need him balling like he balling on the court. And Dylan Brooks making shots. He was a scorer in college. People slept on him. He had to find his way to the rotation. And now all of a sudden he getting buckets. So it's like Valanciunas is an anchor. Y'all don't believe in us. We going for a playoff spot. I love it.
I love it too. Jalen, sometimes this video that really deserves to be broken down in deep, deep detail. So you and I need to go to the table. Montrell Williams, not Montel Williams. He's a basketball player that's playing overseas, and he had one of the most impressive dunks I have seen this season. Let's look at Montrell get up overseas. Steal, nice pass. Jumped over a human being, Jalen Rose. He leapt that entire whole human and dunked a la Vince Carter in the Olympics. My question for you, Jalen, you say you've never been dunked on. Would you rather be dunked on or be jumped over and then dunked on?
I ain't trying to get jumped over. That's the worst. That's the worst. Being jumped over, that's like sunning you. Like, I remember just one of the things I used to do as a hood decathlete is go from house to house and try to jump everybody's fence.
Oh, yeah.
What you know, put your hand on the fence once and just leap it.
You can't let your feet touch the fence. You got to put just a hand, just one hand.
Correct. Almost like hurdles. That's a really impressive dunk with the left. It always looks a lot more special because lefties are the minority in sports and in society.
Well, Jalen, you and I have been discussing something off wax that it seems like the entire national media landscape is completely missing, and it has something to do with the future of football and who the face of the league is going to be. We'll explain right after this. ESPN. And then this weekend, not one, but two title fights. The main card starts at 10 p.m. on ESPN. Make sure you check that out. Two title fights, one including John Bones Jones. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, feels like the confetti just fell at the Super Bowl in Miami. Yet here we are, talking about the Dallas Cowboys on ESPN. You'll never believe it. We're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys because there is a little bit of news. Dak Prescott told reporters to make sure they report that he will not be working out anywhere near the star, obviously referring to the logo of the Dallas Cowboys. He will likely be franchised. He could hold out. So my question for you, Jalen Rose, how do you think this is going to play out? Save us the next 3 months. How do you see this playing itself out?
From a ownership perspective and as a franchise, the Dallas Cowboys could not be handling this any worse. Like they could not be handling this any worse. And here's what I mean. You already got the bargain. You got him in the fourth round. He became your starter. He's only making $2.5 million a year playing against guys that make $30 million.
Great point.
Like, you got to find a way to bridge that gap so that doesn't become an issue not only financially, but emotionally and psychologically to where it becomes personal. In business, you know if you get in a bargain. You got a franchise quarterback, you paid him $2 million. You should take care of him. So now, he, unlike Ezekiel, who held out to make sure he got his bread, $90 million, Dak was like, you know what? I'm going to be a good soldier.
I'm going
to come to camp. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to play the entire season. I'm going to play the entire season. They didn't make the playoffs, but it's two sides to the football. And when I look at their roster, everybody else getting paid. Lawrence getting paid.
Both sides of the ball. Oh, Jalen got a new deal.
Getting paid. Yeah, everybody getting paid. So the offensive line, highest paid in the league. Like, what about me? And so now the season happens. You fire the coach, and if you watch Jalen and Jacoby, you were told who was going to beat the coach. Right here. You got that exclusive that Mike McCarthy was going to be the coach. And one of the reasons he's the coach, you notice his salary wasn't announced. You notice his salary wasn't announced. You notice his salary wasn't announced. Now, when Carolina hires a head coach, we know how much money he's going to make. So what is the difference? The difference is one is an investment and one is insurance. And so everybody getting paid and everybody changing titles and everything. Kellen Clemens is going to be back. And the offensive coordinator, like everybody's going to be back. But you don't take care of Dak, the most important position on the team. If I'm Dak, and this sounds like what he's saying, you're not going to see him in the Cowboy uniform again until he get a new contract.
I don't think so either. Obviously referring to Kellen Moore instead of Kellen Clemens. But Jalen, there's something else that's happening in the NFL. It's just a problem. Can I vent for a second, Jalen Rose? Because I'm upset about something. You know what? This is just injustice. This is injustice. Listen, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, you played a great quarter in the Super Bowl. But you are not the future of the position. We don't have to compare you to Michael Jordan. We're not going to say that the Chiefs going to be a dynasty. We're not going to say you're the best quarterback that we've ever seen. We're not going to put you in the Hall of Fame. Do you know why? Because you're the second best quarterback in the National Football League right now. Everybody forgot about Lamar Jackson, the unanimous MVP of the league, who broke records passing, broke records rushing the ball. He was far and away the most dynamic and best player at the position all season long. Yet now we're talking about Patrick Mahomes like he sliced bread, like he invented the forward pass in the NFL. And Jalen, how do you feel about this?
You know what? This is why I love doing this show with you so very much, my dog. Because
what's that, brother?
We never give each other props or credit, but every now and then we see eye to eye on a topic. And all season we sat here and we made sure that we not only big up the Ravens, and you know how much I love their secondary, and John Harbaugh, who's my guy, one of my favorite coaches, him and Mike Tomlin and Belichick and Andy Reid and Pete Carroll, but also how they built their team around Lamar to the point where it became something we'd never seen. It revolutionized football. I'm watching an NFL team play 4 downs like it's a high school game.
Yep.
I'm watching a quarterback break passing records and rushing records. So
Yes.
one play, he's Michael Vick. The next play, he's Peyton Manning.
Exactly.
And he's the only unanimous MVP of the NFL besides Tom Brady. And their styles of play are vastly different.
Jalen, he broke Mike Vick's record and broke a Peyton Manning record. He's not just them. He's better than them at the position, both of them. Yet here we are talking about, is Patrick Mahomes the Michael Jordan of the NFL? Is Patrick Mahomes going to get 10 MVPs or 20 MVPs over the next couple of decades? Let's not forget Lamar Jackson. Let's never forget Lamar Jackson wearing the chains outside of his uniform on week 17, because that is the lasting image that I will remember of Lamar Jackson. And I hope Lamar Jackson is listening to all of this. I hope that he's listening to all of this and he's just in the gym and he's just working harder and he's getting more angry, because I want the same Lamar Jackson. I want to replay all the tape that everybody talked about Patrick Mahomes over the last couple days next year when Lamar Jackson and the Ravens do it again. I get so fired up over this stuff, man. I really do. I love Lamar Jackson so much. The year that he put up, it's like we just forgot about it. We forgot about it because Derrick Henry ran for 400 yards on him in the playoff game. It's like, let's not forget just how good Lamar Jackson was. And he may not be the best quarterback in the league anymore, but he certainly once was for a long time, and he may really be the best quarterback of all time. And of course, I'm talking about Tom Brady, who is a free agent. He appeared in the Super Bowl, but it was in a Hulu commercial, and there's more rumors about him. Yesterday, we talked about him maybe going to the 49ers. And there's discussions of him going to Vegas to play with the Raiders. Discussion of him taking over for Phillip Rivers with the Chargers. Discussion of the New England Patriots giving him over $30 million just to play next year in New England. So, Jalen, where do you think this is all going to end up?
Well, I know since he's turning 43 next season, this would seem normal, but Tom Brady has defied odds his entire NFL career. For most people, getting a one-year deal at top dollar would be great, but he ain't going for no one-year deal. I've been trying to tell everybody for the last 15 years, anybody that would listen, there are 3 keys to the Patriots' success. No particular order for the first 2. Belichick, Brady, and Giselle. Because when you're paying your quarterback top dollar, it takes resources away from the rest of your roster. And there are multiple times I'm watching them play, and they got that extra linebacker, and they got that extra running back, and they got that extra wide receiver, because he wasn't taking top dollar from the salary cap based on the facts of his marriage dynamics. That helped the team. He wasn't just doing them a favor. It was an investment. Okay, I'm going to invest this back into the team so that now I can sit pretty with 6 championship rings and do Hulu commercials in 1 Super Bowl that I ain't in, even though I've been in 9 in 20 years. Okay? So he trying to get a 3, 4, 5-year deal and trying to get top dollar. He going to make sure somebody paying him at 45, even if he playing or not.
Jalen, I've seen you run across the street at 47, and no one's going to pay him to play football at 45. I've got news about 2 of your favorite people on the planet, Sabrina Ionescu and Terrence Crawford. I'll tell you what that is right after this. SportsCenter tonight at 6 o'clock. They'll be previewing the big matchup between the Greek Freak and Zion. They'll be talking about more to watch in the NFL draft as well. Tune in, SportsCenter, 6 o'clock. Jalen, what we discuss in this program is very important to you. So we made a segment where you can decide. It's called Keep It Moving.
We be moving, you know we keep it moving.
If you want to discuss the topic, just say hit the brakes. If not, We'll keep it moving. Jalen, first up. Clippers and the Spurs played a tight game last night. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
All right. The Clippers ended up getting the win, but the Spurs fell to 22-27. Jalen, you know I picked the Spurs to miss the playoffs every year, and I'm wrong every year. Do you think this will finally be the year where the Spurs actually miss the playoffs?
Yes, because I'm going Portland and Memphis for those final 2 spots based on the way it's shaping up right now. I believe that when you have a dynasty the way they've had, of course you got to reinvent your team. I've played against them when they had David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and then Manu and Tony and Kawhi. And so when you have that turnover and you have the success that they've had, even a great coach like Pop is going to have seasons potentially where they don't make the playoffs, and I believe this is going to be that year. And on the other side and another thing that happened in this game, DeMar DeRozan drove to the basket and he elbowed his good friend Paul George in the nose.
Right in the nose.
And they gave him a flagrant one. They gave him a flagrant one.
With the ball in his hand, he got a flagrant one. With the ball in one hand, and he hit him with the elbow in the other.
Those are the kind of play. Now, those are the kind of old school stay off my lawn plays right there. Those are the kind of plays right there.
Jalen, something I want to get your perspective on very quickly. Jakob Poeltl was checking into the game, and, let's just take a look at what happened. Doesn't have his jersey on. Jalen, how's that happen?
You ain't good enough, dog. You ain't good enough, dog. You ain't good enough, dog. You is not good enough. That's the first thing that come to mind. Because you put LaMarcus back in, and guess what? He started cooking. And so what just happened? You just lost an opportunity. You never know what might happen in this game. We work at ESPN. How many times do you watch top 10 highlights? Anything can happen at any time. Somebody can have a career game. Somebody can do something that's so very outstanding. You missed a moment, Jakob.
It's a great point. Jalen, FSU beat North Carolina last night. Keep it moving or hit the brakes.
Shout out to Cole Anthony. Good to see him back in the lineup. Keep it moving for now.
We keep it moving. We keep it moving.
I have a Sabrina Ionescu update.
Hit the brakes! Hit the brakes! Hit the brakes!
Jalen Rose's favorite basketball player in the planet and the Oregon Ducks went into UConn, the Gamble Pavilion, and gave them the worst loss they've ever had in that arena. They beat them by 74-56. Jalen, Sabrina was a rebound and assist away from another triple-double. What did you see from our girl, Sabrina, last night?
Control. That's what I saw. You at UConn. They've been the standard bearers. And she said it after the game. That's us now. And starting off, all she was doing was getting teammates involved. Pick and roll action, dump offs for layups, hitting a couple of shots, like playing with great leadership and pace. This is the largest loss at UConn in 20 years. Just think about that. She took her team that's ranked 3rd to UConn that's ranked 4th and beat them by almost 20, something that has not happened in 2 decades. That's why she's my favorite player in collegiate basketball.
Well, from your favorite basketball player to your favorite boxer, I have some Terrence Crawford news. Keep moving or hit the brakes.
Hit the brakes.
We all want to see Crawford against Errol Spence. There's a lot of reasons that doesn't seem to be imminent, both financial and physical, because Spence was involved in a car accident. So Bob Arum has drawn up a little interest. He said that Terrence Crawford is a better wrestler than Conor McGregor. Jalen, would you like to see a home and home, a one boxing match and a one MMA fight between McGregor and Crawford?
So let me tell you what I love that's happening right here first and foremost.
Tell me.
And somebody, shout to the top-ranked family. I've worked there even before they were partners with ESPN. Shout to Todd, shout to Bob. I appreciate the years y'all showing me love and allowing me to do great thing in prize fighting. What is Bob Arum's title?
Owner?
And
Promoter?
Promoter!
Okay.
Got you. So therefore, if there's a chance that Crawford and McGregor are going to meet each other and see how many Popeye's chicken sandwiches they can eat in one sitting, Bob would make it interesting for us to pay to go watch it. That's how he's become $100 millionaire, probably a billionaire. That's what he does. I seen the machine work.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So
here's the thing is, Jalen, you're going to make more money fighting McGregor than you're going to make fighting Spence. You're going to make fighting anybody else in the squared circle. So from my mind, if I'm Terrence Crawford, I am seriously considering this. Do you think he could seriously be considering this?
So here's, as somebody that's a Terrence Crawford fan and he's been on our show. If he has a wrestling history and it's something that he's passionate about, okay. But if it's something that he's adopting, absolutely not. That's the distinction. You don't practice against Conor McGregor, because when I see those terms, better wrestler than McGregor, there ain't too many people walking the face of the earth that can say that. And depending on what night it is, not many are. So if this happens, it's going to be in the squared circle. I cannot imagine this taking place in an octagon.
Jalen, the Super Bowl halftime performance has left a lasting effect not just on me. Keep it moving or hit the brakes?
Hit the brakes.
Well, all the Grizzlies drama happened after the game, but against the Pistons, the Grizzlies mascot did his best Shakira impression to the delight of the crowd. Jalen Rose, what do you think about this move from the Grizzlies mascot?
I think that's a boss move. We're paying attention to the Grizzlies for all the right reasons. Got the entertainment with the mascot, current events, getting social clips, getting shouts on our show. John Brooks going back and forth with Steph, posting KD with trophies. I love it.
I love it,
That's
too.
why they're going for that eighth spot.
Shout to Memphis and the Grizzlies and Yo Gotti while we're at it. Zion and Giannis face off tonight. We'll talk about that right after this. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, a couple big games tonight I would like to discuss with you. Number one involves a men's college basketball team that you may be interested in. The Michigan Wolverines, they play the Ohio State Buckeyes. Both at this point are unrated, similar records. What do you think about the Wolverines season thus far after such a hot start?
I'm proud of what Juwan has done with the team. Anytime you come into a season and you're not ranked, and all of a sudden you play against a lot of the top teams in the country and you catapult yourself into the top 5, that's special. Dealt with some injuries. Livers has been in and out of the lineup. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Simpson leads the nation in assists. Teskey is a good big guy that can give you points facing and with his back to the basket. So I like the way our squad is progressing. The Big Ten is tough. They may get more teams in the NCAA tournament than any conference in the country.
Jalen, that's the big game in college. The big game in the pros is tonight between the Bucks and the Pelicans, and obviously that means a matchup between the Greek Freak and one of the more freakish athletes we've ever seen in the league, Zion Williamson. What do you think will happen when these two face off on the same floor?
I just enjoy that I've been saying, look at the Pelicans fly for a couple of years, and now they got Zion, and it really matters. That's what he's doing. Yeah, no doubt. I want to see him playing against the top players in the game, and tonight he's going to get a chance to face Giannis. These are two freaks of nature for vastly different reasons. Their body type. We never seen a 7-foot guy like Giannis go coast to coast in 5 or 6 dribbles and dunk on everybody while still getting 30 points, 15 boards, and 5 assists. And we haven't seen a 6'8", 280 guy getting every loose ball, getting steals, getting blocks, and dunking on everybody and catching lobs from 60 feet away from the hoop. So I can't wait to this matchup. Unfortunately, I think the playoff run is a little too late for the Pelicans. 10 games under 500. Yeah.
But I am so interested in these games because Zion Williamson has been so consistent, so efficient. Not only is he getting nearly 20 points a game, he's doing it in about 26 minutes. I am so impressed with Zion's early start to his career. Jalen, it's time for What's Your Number?